on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Checkwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is my revisited review for Shazam, directed by David F. Sandberg. This is part of the kind of reinvented DCEU after Aquaman. Walter Hamada came in at the helm. He brought in James Wan, and I have to believe that James Wan brought in David Sandberg. And I really love the tone of this movie. It was much more lighthearted. And this came out like right in between Infinity War and Endgame for Avengers. And so if you're a comic book fan, you had some really heavy material. And then you have this in between. And I think that's part of the attraction to the Shazam movie. So you have Zachary Levi come in as Captain Marvel, which is the actual name of the character, Captain Marvel. It's the adult version of Billy Batson, who is a kid who meets this wizard, and this wizard gives him the power to say Shazam, his name, and then he turns into this superhero with an adult body. You have Mark Strong coming in as Dr. Thaddeus Savannah. Asher Angel plays the younger version of Billy Batson. Jack Dylan Grazer plays one of Billy Batson's fellow kids at a group home. There's a group home. Billy Batson is an orphan. His mother kind of left him, and so he spent a lot of time trying to find her and being tossed from orphanage to group home to group home. You have Adam Brody, who plays superhero Freddy, important later in the movie. Jamon Hansu plays Shazam, the actual wizard himself. The group home is run by Victor Vasquez, who is played by Cooper Andrews, who I absolutely love in The Walking Dead as Jerry. And he's just such a likable character in this movie. He has a wife or significant other, Rosa Vasquez, played by Marta Milans. Faith Herman plays Darla Dudley, who is another girl in the group home. Megan Good plays superhero Darla. Grace Fulton plays Mary Bromfeld, another girl in the group home. Michelle Borth plays superhero Mary. Ian Chen plays Eugene Choi, another kid in the group home. Ross Butler plays superhero Eugene. Jovan Armand plays Pedro Pina, another kid in the group home. And DJ Catrona plays superhero Pedro. Now, the reason I mention all those names is because they all kind of are important to this storyline. You have, as I said, Billy Batson, this kid. He's gone from orphanage to orphanage, so this family picks him up after he had a run-in with the law, trying to find his real mother. And so, of course, Billy Batson, he's very reluctant. He doesn't really want to be a part of this group home at first. He doesn't know anybody. It's all awkward. His roommate, Freddie, is a little weird. And all props to Jack Dylan Grazer, because really the focus, at least for the friendship, starts with Jack Dylan Grazer and Asher Angel. And Jack Dylan Grazer, sometimes I'm just not a fan of child actors, and he is phenomenal. He's the kid who I believe played Eddie in It, and just a damn good actor. So that was very cool. So yeah, Billy Batson, he gets pulled into Shazam's world, and he's bestowed these powers. And so you have Zachary Levi playing the adult version of Billy Batson, who's still mentally a child. And it's very cool because he just seems very childlike in his persona. And I really love that. Like, Zachary Levi was a great choice for this role. He just seems like a kid at heart, and it really shines through in this movie. And so that was very, very cool and very important. Like, they kind of made this, even from the trailers, feel like a superhero version of Big, you know, the classic comedy with Tom Hanks. And they even give a nod to that movie in this movie. And so I was really glad. I mean, it's very self-aware, and it knows that it's a comic book movie, and it knows that it's not to be taken too seriously. But they actually created this as a comedy, and it was very funny as a comedy. It had some great moments. It was a comedy first, and then a superhero movie, and then an action movie. And I feel like they really nailed that. And again, especially with that fine line between having child actors, can just be overdone. They really nailed it with this one. So Mark Strong plays Thaddeus Savannah, who we meet as a child, and his father is just a despicable person who is just really mean to this kid. He has a brother who is equally as mean to him. And he originally was pulled in by Shazam to see if he would be worthy of getting bestowed the powers of Captain Marvel. And of course, he was tempted by the 7 deadly sins. And so he fails the test. And then he's kind of jaded and really just takes a turn for the worse after that. And so he's really determined to find this wizard in this like location that he was brought to as a kid. And so eventually he does, and instead he takes the powers of the 7 deadly sins. And so he becomes their champion. And that's why Shazam, again played by Jaman Hansu, he has to find somebody now. So he pulls in Billy Batson, and there you go, you're off to the races. So there's a scene where Dr. Thaddeus Savannah, he gets his powers, and he decides the first thing he's going to do is go kill his dad and his brother. So he goes into this office meeting at Savannah Industries or whatever it's called, and there's this big scene where he releases the 7 deadly sins, which honestly were kind of generic in their way. I mean, they had some cool concepts for each of the characters, you know, lust, greed, but they all looked kind of similar in style and just not the greatest in my opinion, if I'm being honest. Like, they could have done a little bit more with them. That might have been budget constraints too. So he takes out the entire boardroom, and then when it's just him and his dad, the 7 deadly sins say there's one more powerful than you, and you have to kill him before he reaches his full potential. So Savannah goes and finds Billy Batson, or Captain Marvel, whatever you want to call him, and there's a big fight scene there where Shazam realizes he can fly, for one, but he also kind of realizes that he's outmatched. And so he decides that he doesn't really want to be a part of this anymore. Like, it's just too much for him. And of course, Savannah doesn't let that happen. He actually comes to the group home and has all the kids prisoners. So he puts Captain Marvel in the position now he has to do something. So he goes back to the group home, and there's a scene where Savannah's trying to get Captain Marvel to give him his powers. You know, you say Shazam while holding this magical staff, and it transfers powers over. And so that's what Savannah's trying to get Billy Batson to do. He releases all the 7 deadly sins into these 7 thrones. And when he does that, one of the kids follows Shazam, Captain Marvel rather, through this portal into this like lair, and hits him with a batarang, and it actually cuts Savannah in the back of the head. And so they start to realize that when the 7 deadly sins are out of his body, it's still just, you know, a guy. And so there's a big scene where, first of all, Captain Marvel has to get these kids out of this lair. So he gets them back on Earth. Savannah follows with the staff. Eventually, Captain Marvel gets the staff, and then he realizes he can transfer the same power to these kids. And so they all grab the staff, they all say Shazam, and then they all become superheroes, essentially. And they all have, you know, their certain strengths. Like Darla's super quick, Pedro's super strong. All of that kind of combines. And so there's a big face-off between Billy Batson, Captain Marvel, and the rest of that group against the 7 deadly sins. And at the end, you have Captain Marvel. He pulls this power, which was kind of like stuck in not Zachary, but Thaddeus Savannah's eye. The power like kind of formed this ball, this chrysalis, and like basically shot through and became Savannah's eye. So Billy Batson pulls that orb out of his head. All the power stripped from Savannah. They put him in a mental hospital. And then, of course, all the Captain Marvel crew are like cheered by everybody that was there. The big fight takes place at a fair. It was really cool, and I'm really glad that they started with Savannah instead of Black Adam, because you really needed to establish the character of Captain Marvel and Billy Batson, and then establish, everybody else in that whole scenario. And I'm really glad they did that first, because when Dwayne Johnson comes on screen as Black Adam, I mean, he's going to look like a genuine threat. And I loved Mark Strong. He's always a great actor. He's a very good character actor. And actually was the best part of Green Lantern by a mile. Him playing Sinestro absolutely killed it. Nobody can say anything bad about Sinestro and Green Lantern. The movie sucked, but that was a good part. So Mark Strong, I've always liked, and he just knows how to deliver a line. So that was fine, but I think as far as physical, like imposing, like Sense of Doom, Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson, that's going to be a whole other level. It was a lot of fun, though, and they, like I said, they did play up the comedy. They also had some heartfelt moments there with Billy Batson as he, tries to find out who his real mother is and try to reconnect with her, and then he does finally, through the group home kids helping him out, and realizes that she just didn't want him in the first place. And then he's like, you know what, I got to get back to my real family. I thought that was a really cool line. And so, it was kind of like him accepting his place in this group home with these other kids. And I really felt like that was great. Cooper Andrews, really played this big, gentle giant type who had a very warm heart and, really genuinely cared. And I thought that was equally as cool. I really liked that. So, it was a great time, man. Not without its problems. I mean, there were times that it was cheesy and the writing, the dialogue was not the best. But thankfully, they made the movie intentionally campy a lot of times. They made it, feel a little cheesy throughout, but intentionally, and that was good. That led to a lot of funny moments with it, to be very honest. So it was very good that they were self-aware and that they did make this a comedy first, because that, I think, is what sold the movie. So you do get a mid-credit scene where Savannah, he's locked up in a mental institution, and he's just writing all these symbols on the wall, and these are the same symbols that you write these 7 symbols in sequence 7 times, and it opens up a doorway, and it's just not working for him. So there's this little worm, and I'm not sure what this character is. I'm not familiar with it. But he says that he named the gods, and that there's more than one way to create magic, and he's about to wipe out mankind. And so he's saying to Savannah that he's not done yet. And then just a real quick Aquaman bit at the end where he's like, Billy Batson as Captain Marvel is holding up a fish tank, and he's trying to communicate with fish, and they're like, what's so cool about talking to fish, and then kind of like giving Aquaman some love at the end of the movie. But that was really, really it. Very fun movie, though. Absolutely loved it. 8 out of 10. Actually, 8.5 out of 10, because it was really, really fun. 8.5 because, like I said, there were some really campy parts to it. But I think for what they were trying to do, they really did kill it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm at, 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz, Kaged Nation, out.